Welcome to the Red Letters Podcast. In this podcast, we explore topics that can be life transforming while delivering a message of hope.
Thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. Today, the topic that we're looking at talking about is the difference between love and lust. I'll probably go ahead and start off this episode as something I just kind of pulled up, just trying to see what a definition would be. And it's not necessarily a definition, but it's more of a thought behind lust and love and the difference. So let me go ahead and read this. It says, lust is a state of overwhelming sexual and physical attention to another person. Love, on the other hand, is a much broader concept that includes deeper emotional connection and or usually a desire to make that relationship last. I don't believe that that's a full, complete answer, but it will at least help us get started discussing the topic. A lot of times I know people want to put everything under the umbrella of love, but many times lust is involved because it's normally not love the way God desires it to be. So a lot of times when we live or think outside the principle of love that God laid down for us, lust is normally there, at the door knocking, trying to get you to participate in that. And so I guess a question that we could start off with would be, have you ever participated in either one? I'll go ahead and start, I guess. Yeah. It's not probably the most comfortable topic, but
kind of a personal question.
Well, I know a lot of times that, like when I was younger, when we're younger, a lot of times we'll look at something that, whether if you're a guy or you see a girl or vice versa, and a lot of times you see somebody who's captivating and just gets your attention and stuff like that. And I know a lot of times we tend to say that we pretty quick, especially when we're younger, because we don't understand the definition of love. We say we love the person when a lot of times it's just what you see and you desire. And sometimes that just qualifies as being lust because you might desire that person in a wrong way. Without even talking to them, you could actually say you love them. And most of the time that's not the case because love has to involve a relationship, at least an emotional connection, an intellectual connection. Something there has to be there to even start to qualify for love. I don't think you could just have love, like they say, love at first sight. I think that could, it could become that and maybe something develop positively in that particular relationship. And love was built from that, from that first contact. But I don't really think that you can actually genuinely know the definition of love and say, I love that person right when I saw them. That's just my thought. What do you think?
I don't know, but that is a great question. If you can love somebody, I actually think it is possible, Tony. Okay. And I could be wrong, but the way that I'm using it. But before I jump to that, I wanted to know, so is lust a bad thing? Is lust always a bad thing?
Well, actually, can I share the definition of lust first?
Sure.
And then it kind of will help everybody. Okay, so the definition of lust is intense sexual desire or appetite, uncontrolled or illicit sexual desire or appetite, or mastering or overmastering desire or craving, usually followed by for a lust for power.
Oh.
So it could also be controlling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what caught me is when it said it's an appetite.
Yeah.
And I think it's a craving. It's kind of like, I think about eating food, right?
Right.
Eating food could be a sin because it could become gluttony. Gluttony is when you crave it, like you overindulge yourself and you eat more than what your body needs, right? And you're constantly, I want to eat. Yeah. And sometimes people tend to feed their cravings, with food and things like that, but then it could lead to gluttony.
Right.
And gluttony is sin.
And that's lust.
It's, you could say it's a form of lust,
right.
but for food, right?
Right, yeah.
But then now sexually, right? It can become sin when you're like, let's say looking at someone, but you're craving them for that sexual desire
Or control over.
or not so much. I don't know. I think that could lead to control, but I think that you can desire a person the wrong way. Like I really liked what he said about relationship. Love, I believe does start with the relationship.
Right. Okay.
Right. Lust, I think is something that I want to say it's more of a craving, because I think that's something that, if I have to use my testimony, like even as a young kid growing up in my household, I was exposed to things when I was younger, and I became, you could say that I struggled with lust,
Right.
because I craved sex, and it wasn't something that was natural. It was to me not normal. You know what I mean? Because I craved it.
Right.
And that's why that word sticks to me, is like, it was a craving that I had, but it was wrong because I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't for relationship. It wasn't about love, right? But it came because of a lack of love. I was looking for love, but in the wrong way.
In the wrong way, yeah. And that's the
don't
reason
know
we're
if that
doing. I'm
makes
sorry,
sense.
Yeah,
Tony.
no, go ahead.
And that's the reason we're covering topics like this, because we want our listener to understand what the difference is. Because a lot of times growing up, we're told one thing, like, "Oh, I saw that guy and I was lusting over him," but it makes it sound, or a woman, and it makes it sound like it's a good thing. But if you're in a relationship, if you already have a partner, you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, like, if you are already committed to someone, we shouldn't be lusting over anyone. Okay. And then obviously if, like we said earlier with food, so we don't lust over anything, because that actually is, now that I hear it more, it's like, it's actually not a good thing. Like
No.
to lust over something is not a good thing. So I'm glad we're covering love versus lust, or the difference there. But we want our listener to have an understanding of what it means, because far too many times we're told one thing and we grow up with that idea, not realizing that we're actually speaking wrong and thinking about it the wrong way, instead of being genuine and loving something or someone.
That's true. And I would probably want to go ahead and jump in and say 100%, my opinion, lust is 100% negative. I don't see anywhere, and I've been thinking about it as we started this, I can't find one application that it's healthy.
Right.
And one other thing that I'll go ahead and kind of maybe challenge you, Ida, regarding the food part, is you can't lust after food. Everything that lust, that word is attached to, is sexuality.
Oh, okay.
So
You're right.
You can have a desire, an unhealthy desire for food, but I'm never going to say, man, that steak looks sexy.
No.
I'm being
There's
honest.
people that actually,
No, that's
People,
a different
yeah.
feeling. But I do want to clarify, lust is attached to sexuality.
Sexual.
I don't
Yeah,
see it
no, I
anywhere
agree.
outside of that. And there is actually 3 steps that they say that there is to lust. Normally, lust is first the desire, the thought, then it becomes the attraction, and then the attachment. So there's like evolutions of lust. As you entertain that thought, then you want to you start seeing it, and then you're attracting it, and then you're participating in it. So we have to be careful to, one, guard our mind, because lust will destroy you no matter what. There's no healthy way to have lust attached to your life.
Right.
well, even in the Bible, it talks about that lust is a fruit of the flesh.
Yeah.
It's not a fruit of the spirit.
Exactly.
So it is sin.
Yeah.
I think too, regarding the difference between the two, I'm not pretty sure it's for sure, but lust always has to do with satisfying yourself.
Yeah.
Versus love is
flesh.
Yeah.
for the
That's
other
good.
person.
Exactly.
And I
That's a good
think a
point.
lot of it is in like Songs of Solomon. They're always talking about the other person, how beautiful they are, worshiping not worshiping, but praising the other person for how they look and, their bodies.
Yeah.
And I think I heard someone say it's like, you're playing a movie in your head. Lust isn't, you can admire someone of the
Right.
opposite sex. Oh, they're a beautiful person. But once you take that second look and then you play that movie in your head, that's what lust is. It's not like the appreciation of God's creation, but it's like that movie that no one sees that can actually, then it goes, spirals down to, adultery and all that stuff.
Right.
Well, actually, I have a question. like, okay, because I went to a group one time. I was invited to a Bible study, not knowing what kind of Bible study it was. I'm not gonna name who took me, but someone took me to a Bible study one time and didn't know that it was an intervention for married women whose husbands had a pornography addiction.
Oh,
And I was sitting. I know it's crazy.
That's not a Bible study.
No, well, it was not a. Well, it was a study to kind of like help them heal. Let's just say through biblical, verses and stuff. But then listening to some of their stories, and the reason I'm bringing this up because a lot of the times, wives, believing wives, right, Christian wives, they tend to when they see like, how would I put it in? It's like. When their husband desires, because I believe a man desires, and others, they think about sex, they desire sex and things like that, right? And there's times they're desiring their wife, they want their wife, they
Right.
want to have intimacy with their wives, and they want to explore and do things a little differently, right?
right.
And their wives right away is like, oh, take it the wrong way. Look at, you're lusting, that's not, or it's sin what you're thinking or how you're doing it. But I was like, no, I says, if you want to keep your husband from running down that road, then, and he's desiring you, then what's stopping you from giving him what he desires?
Yeah.
If it's you he's looking at, he's not looking at the other
Somebody
women,
else.
but
Yeah.
if you want him to, he will start looking that, way
exactly.
if you're not gonna, be able to satisfy him or fulfill his needs. And I don't know why I brought that up, but I know it is something that even when I first got married with Tony, I struggled with certain things because of my past.
Right.
And I felt like I was allowing my past to interfere with my intimacy, right? Because I was looking at it as wrong, as sin. And I don't know, I think we had conversations a long time ago regarding this. And I struggled with that, because I was looking at sex as a bad thing, but sex isn't a bad thing if it's within a married couple,
Exactly,
within the. But anyways, I don't know why I brought that up,
No,
but I
and
feel
I'm
maybe it's for someone because it is. It's something that happens all the time, and we think it's a bad thing, but it's not.
Right. And Ida, I know we've covered this in the past, talking about trauma, but if individual has gone through any type of sexual trauma when they were children, they tend to think that sex is wrong. They tend to look at it as, well, I'm not supposed to be doing it or doing this, and they feel so much shame with it. And in a marriage, it's supposed to be something healthy and it's appropriate. But because of what they've gone through, they see it as something wrong.
Right.
And that's where we go back to the love. If you love and you are in love, that person's always going to love you and respect you. But we have to go through the healing so we don't feel that shame in a relationship because of something that's happened because somebody was lusting over
Right.
something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So, and that's how Gio said it goes into, or somebody said it goes into sin when you start to lust over somebody you're not supposed to be doing something.
And not only that, lust, the fruit of lust is damage.
Yes.
You can't have a relationship based on love without damaging someone. I was just looking it up, and Google says that the length of a relationship that's based on lust lasts no more than normally 2 years. So if it's based on that, and you think, hey, I don't necessarily need to be married to go ahead and engage with this other person, and we're going to go ahead and have sex, and we're just going to fulfill each other's desires. According to Google, you got 2 years. The time clock started when you hit the sack.
And
When
more
you're
than
done.
often, they're probably not just settled with you. They're probably having other relationships outside that.
Yeah, well, that can be, but I'm just saying that the life of a relationship is about 2 years or less. So if you really want, go ahead.
Well, I like that, Tony, but according to Google, so the person that's lusting over the other individual, their span is gone after 2 years, or is that the individual who fell for the luster, if you will?
Yeah, I would probably say if lust is the base of the relationship.
Yeah,
Whether
okay.
it's one person or both, I'm not sure because it doesn't clarify that, but that would be my inkling of what their answer would be.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
and then once again, that's why we're having these topics, so the individual will be able to recognize that.
Yeah.
Is this, do I really love this person, or did I fall in love or in lust with what they look like, or how they presented, and I just, like, my flesh wants this, and then they move on. Like after, you know what, the fun is gone, and then they move on. So it's like, that's why it's important to know what love is and to know what lust is.
Yeah, yeah. And I like what Gio said too, is it's always looking out for the other person. So here would be a question I'll throw out there. What's more stronger, lust or love?
I never answered the first question, so I'm going to go back
Let's
to
go
that.
back to that one.
Yeah, so I want to answer that first. When
We'll
you said
edit that part.
No. I want to keep it
No,
because
no,
I'm going to
no,
go back
yeah,
and
yeah.
answer this. So, so I think lust is more stronger. I'll go ahead and say that. So, and then you said earlier that you don't believe that a person can love somebody when they first meet.
No, the love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if you ever see my wedding video, they asked me when did I know that I loved my husband? And I said, I knew when I saw him that I loved him. And it's so weird, but from somebody who didn't know what love was, I saw a protector. When I saw him, I said, oh, I just saw the strong person, and I said, I love him. I'm going to marry. I went up to my friend and I said, you see that guy over there? I'm going to marry him. And she's like, you're crazy, you know? And I was like, no, I'm going to marry him. And he hadn't even met me. He didn't know that I even existed. But I knew, for me, what he presented, and I just saw him from far away, but he looked really strong. And to me, he presented as somebody who could protect me. And I had gone through so much stuff in my life that I never thought that people protect other people, but something happened that when I saw him, I said, I love him. I love everything that I'd never met the dude, never talked to him, but I loved him, loved that he looked like he could protect me. And then I made my way over there, and then I convinced him to marry me. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But we dated for a while, and then I married him. Then we got married. But so I do believe that there is love at first sight, and it could happen. We've been married 23 years. Hasn't been great, but hey, you know what? We're still here. But I believe that lust is stronger because of the fact that it's a person who's hurting, that lust. It's a person who is so broken that I can fill myself up and fill up my cup with this desire, because all they're doing is trying to feel what the flesh needs. The flesh needs to feel something. And if I go after her and it happens, so I just want it, and you don't care what that person thinks. That's how I believe lust is. So that's why I believe that it's so much stronger than love, because love, you love a person, but you are patient with that person. So that's how I see it.
Let me jump in and just challenge something you said,
Okay.
just for the sake of the conversation. When you said that you saw him and that you loved him, did you really mean, I want to love him?
It could mean that, because like I said, I didn't know what love meant.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
came to find out later on in life that what I was loving and what I believed to be love wasn't love. Because just because somebody can protect you doesn't mean that there's love. Like, so, but in that moment when I saw him, I said, I love him. I'm going to marry him.
Yeah. I was just
So,
asking because
yeah.
to somebody listening, maybe their process could have been a little different, where maybe
Yeah.
they said, I want to love that because I love what I see, but I haven't unpackaged it enough to actually say, I'm connected and I'm loving them now.
Yeah.
That's more why I was just
Oh,
asking.
okay. Well, it came to be that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess in the beginning when you see him, it's like, so love at first sight, I guess I fell in love with what I saw, but I don't know. But later on it came to be love. Genuine
Marcos,
love,
you can
yeah.
put your cape away.
Right? Hey, it's the first time I ever say something nice about him in a podcast.
So I guess going back to what Mary said earlier about how you just looked at your husband and said that you loved him. Do you think that lust can turn into love? The reason why I'm asking is because when Ida, earlier you read the definition of lust, it said like it's satisfying yourself. You said that your husband can.
Represented somebody that could protect me.
You're right. Do you think that? I guess that probably could have started out as lust, or because it's the idea of you being protected, satisfied. You know, you're protected,
Right.
and you're comfortable with that. do you think that, would you consider that lust? And then eventually you loved him.
Oh, that's good, Sean. Are you trying to say I sinned?
Or maybe maybe it was
unhealthy
more like, maybe it was more you desired him because you saw something in him that triggered maybe a desire that you had in a person that you wanted to be with. Yeah. Like you were looking for someone like that. You know what I mean? Not so much you lusted after him or anything like that, but more of a desire. Like he just like, wow, you know what? There's something about him that I desire, you know, that I could see myself loving him and marrying him and being his wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And him protecting me and things like that.
What do you think?
I guess. I don't know. Y'all just challenged all my philosophy of what I thought. You know what? I love you. I'm kidding, Sean.
Yeah. So for regarding me, because I love the idea of love at first sight. I'm still like a hopeless romantic.
Aw.
You know, I found the person I love. But
You're not
I'm just
no
saying,
more.
So I'm just because I think like what you said right now, it was like almost for me, like when I saw Jess, it wasn't like, oh, I love her. It was more I desired her, but I wasn't like lusting. I don't think I was thinking of her in like any sinful or wrong way. It's like you could desire someone and not want to, use them for your own selfish desires.
Right.
But it wasn't until like years later, I like something snapped and I was like, I love this girl. Like I would put everything I want to do aside just to make her happy, if that makes sense. And I think that's where you, like for me, it was like a slow burn and it just randomly, I was like, hey, I actually love this girl.
I believe a part to play in that though is the fact that you began showing her and doing things for her. And the way you guys would go out and you'd prepare ahead of time. It was like you started doing those things and planting those seeds that I believe led up to falling in love with her. It's the action that you began applying to the relationship that turned into love.
I just think hearing Mary, though, it sounds very pure.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm not
love
saying
is
it's
such and I'm not just like trying to defend.
That's why I said desire.
Because like lust, it's a very like dirty word.
Yeah.
It's tied to something typically filthy. And so hearing Mary's story, it feels very pure, like a love story.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, from outside looking in, I wouldn't call it lust.
Yeah. No,
It was Sean.
I said
It was Sean.
desire.
It was Sean.
No, I wasn't even trying to say that either. I was more just the thought of saying that you love the person without really knowing them versus
that.
I really want to love this person.
Yeah, and
Because
that
of the
makes-
package I see.
Right,
You know
and
what
that
I
really
mean?
does make sense.
Yeah, that's more what I was saying.
And I did, I guess, looking back at it, and now that everything's on the table, it was a desire to be protected.
Yeah.
So, and that leads to loving the individual.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I kind of want to jump back because one thing mom talked about like food being like lustful, and you said that it's typically always sex.
Yeah.
And I know that's the like main point is like lust is like a sexual thing. But another thing I read was lust is a strong, powerful desire. You lust for things you deeply crave. Someone greedy lusts for money. Someone gluttonous lusts for food. The most basic meaning of lust is an unquenchable desire for sex. But it could be anything that you're deeply craving, but most of the time it's tied to your flesh. But something that came up when I was reading that is what is the root of lust? So if someone is like, I don't think I'm lustful, or I don't think I had lustful desires, whatever, is there like roots? Because you're talking about fruit earlier, but what's the root of it? How does like lust come to be?
I would say because you have a lack within. It could be for anything. So it's a lack, but the root of lack of anything is the lack of love. So if you don't have that, then you will always be lusting over something or someone. Because at the very core of you, if you don't have the love, and I'm going to throw it out there, if you don't have the love of Christ, you just don't have it. Yeah, you can you can fill yourself up with money, things, people all around you. But if you don't have Christ, then you're always going to be craving something or someone.
No, and I was just talking with someone the other day because we were going through a study, but we were talking about being satisfied. Like, you know, until you're satisfied with God 100%, everybody tries to look for other ways to satisfy themselves instead of filling it with God. There's that void, I believe, that each and every one of us carry that only God can feel.
Yes.
And that, so I believe that too, that like you said, the root, you know, not being loved or searching, even people like, not being satisfied or not knowing how to love, and they confuse the two, you know what I mean? But I think if anything, it's the satisfying, like if we try to find other things to satisfy us other than, allowing God to be the one that satisfies us.
Yeah.
And I think that answers the question too. When Dad said, what was stronger, lust or love? I think when you don't have a grounding or a foundation built on Christ, lust will always be stronger.
Oh yeah.
Well,
But go ahead, Dad.
one thing that I'll add to what you guys said about the being loved and stuff, I think the other one is the lack of being complete. If your life is a jigsaw puzzle and you're putting all the pieces together and you're trying to get this circle fit into this square spot and you're forcing it because that square spot's supposed to be God and his love, and you're trying to force the circle into the square and it just don't fit, you're going to find anything and everything. That's why people run to relationships, run to drugs, run to anything to try to fill that void, because they know that deep down they're not complete. They don't have the love of God in them. That really, that's what they're chasing. But because they're not, either don't know or they know and don't want to chase that love, then they're going to try to find any substitute they can. But switching gears a little bit, I know that lust is powerful, but my conclusion is love is stronger.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
I know that's why I asked the question, which one's stronger? I know they're both powerful, but to me, lust could have a hold of your life for so many years and stuff like that. But when you're in a love relationship and you stand the test of time with the person, you went through the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and the lows of life, and you're still in love with each other. To me, that is way more powerful. I'm not saying that lust isn't powerful, but I just think that love is stronger, because at the end, that's really what conquers everything.
I'd say it's God's agape love that's stronger ultimately.
And I just wanted to give an example of what I believe genuine love as opposed to lust is. So for those moms out there, when you gave birth to that first baby or a child, when you give birth to a child and it's that you just met him for the first time, you've never seen this kid, you've never heard him cry or anything, but it's that first initial look, you just love with everything that you are, that you're willing to get up even when you can't move to take care of this little being. So, and it's that, or if you don't have babies, it's one of your animals, I think. You just love this animal, this little thing so much. And there's nothing that can compare to that. So to me, that's the purest kind of love. So I just wanted to throw that out there just in case anybody's confused with what love and lust is. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. We hope that we gave you some insight to love versus lust. And if you're struggling with it, do what Tony did. Google it. You're going to find out that all the answers are there. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us.